that is a wrap for the regular season 2022 edition of the NFL. But we still have a lot to unwrap or unpack here on the HBCU NFL Report, brought to you guys by HBCU Game Day. I am Symone Stanley, as always, joined by Lute, and we keep you guys updated on some of your favorite Black college football stars in the pros. Lute, how are you feeling? Week 18. Last week, we ended saying we're either going to come here with smiles or we're going to be coming here frowning. I think we both ended this season with a W. Your coach, Mike Tomlin, his winning record streak is still alive after taking down the Browns. And for me, Jalen Hurts swooped in, saved the day, secured the #1 seed for my Eagles.
Yeah, we're both smiling, even though my Steelers didn't make the playoffs. Certainly, they 16th year in a row that Mike Tomlin has finished with a winning record. We finished 9-8. I don't really care that we made the playoffs. I care the fact that we showed that we're a team on the rise with that young freshman rookie quarterback, Kenny Pickett, played very well last 3 games, big wins over conference and division rivals, the Ravens, as well as the Cleveland Browns. So, yeah, I'm smiling. I like what he's doing. I like the direction the team is going. Congratulations to you and the Eagles for securing that top seed and the bye in the playoffs. But I'm feeling good, too, because I think Mike Tomlin's 17th season will be one we'll approach with great anticipation. I think, as I said, I think we're a team on the rise. But looking for the Eagles to make a deep run. Because,
you're looking for it. I'm looking for it.
Because Javon Hargrave is kind of carrying the HBCU Black College mantle into the playoffs. There's a couple of other guys, but he's certainly one of the central guys. So looking forward as this first season ends and the second season begins.
You bring up Javon Hargrave. We're going to talk about him, of course, throughout the playoffs. Hopefully, throughout the Super Bowl, hopefully we can have an episode where we're talking about Javon Hargrave hoisting up a Super Bowl trophy, putting on for South Carolina State University. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, because we already have one South Carolina State Bulldog who has an award already as a rookie, Decobie Durant, defensive back out of South Carolina State University, has won the Los Angeles Rams Rookie of the Year award. He leads the team in interceptions with 3, and he is top in the NFL in interception return yards with 151. Not just catching the interception, but putting some production behind it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that pick 6, not this week, but the week before, certainly contributed to that. Big honor for Cobie Durant. He's the reigning MEAC Defensive Player of the Year from the 2021 season. Great player, great instincts. I think his coach finally realized late in the season that he was a baller. I think he said something to the effect of that McVay said that he's a baller. To get 3 picks as a rookie and to lead the team, he won the Carol Rosenblum Award. That's the former owner and maybe still part owner of the Rams award that goes to the top rookie on the Rams squad. So well-deserved, even though he did not get a lot of time on the field. He didn't play like 12 or 13 games. I can't even remember.
Right.
We're going to tally that up in terms of trying to compile all of the stats for all of the HBCU players this year. But certainly, Decobie Durant or Cobie Durant, whichever you prefer, had an outstanding season. To lead the Rams as a rookie and even not play a lot of games probably bodes very well for his future. Absolutely.
Especially when you're playing alongside Jalen Ramsey, like coming into the season, one of the top corners, top respected corners in the league. He said he was learning from Jalen Ramsey this offseason, and he learned a lot because he's leading the team. I mean, they're going to make up their own narratives in the comment section, but at the end of the day, the stats say what the stats say.
Yeah, but see, Decobie brought something to the game from the beginning. I mean, we knew at South Carolina State, he was a linchpin to that defense that held Shedeur Sanders and Jackson State down in the Celebration Bowl last year. Had a big sack that contributed to that game. He was a leader of that defense, particularly a leader on the back end of that defense. And it was kind of surprising because he's a little small as cornerbacks go, but very, very tough and very, very smart. And if this is any indication, I think we're going to see a lot more of him next year in terms of getting on the field for the Rams.
Yes. So Decobie ended his college career with an award, MEAC Defensive Player of the Year. He ends his first season in the NFL with an award, Rookie of the Year for the Los Angeles Rams. So shout out to him. Now we got to pivot and talk about the Cleveland Browns. Who would have thought we would have been talking about? I don't think we talked about the Browns all season long, have we?
Right. No, we didn't. And there's a reason, because all of the HBCU players, all of them, and they had more than anyone else in the league, but they were all on the practice squad. Mm-hmm. And other than Dalen Baldwin, I think Dalen Baldwin, wide receiver out of Jackson State, spent his last year at Michigan. I think he spent his early part of his career in the CIAA. So he went from the CIAA to the SWAC to the Big Ten. They signed him as a free agent. He got in, I think, one game, and maybe Roderick Perry got in one game. So these are folks that basically stayed on the practice squad the whole season for the Browns as they struggled through the season. I think the Browns finished with like 4 or 5 wins. But now, big news. So give us the big news.
So the Browns signed 4 HBCU players to reserve / future contracts. So Dalen Baldwin, Story Jackson, Roderick Perry II, and Tyrone Wheatley. All of those guys hailing from HBCU. So maybe we can see them next year on the HBCU NFL Report. Maybe we'll be talking about those guys a little bit more. But it's good to know that at the end of the season, your team still wants you.
And that's a futures reserves contracts. They sign you to those contracts because they think that you're going to contribute to them in the future. Even though they didn't get on the field this year, all 4 of them, as you said, Roderick Perry out of South Carolina State was a defensive tackle, all MEAC defensive tackle. He spent his final year up at Illinois in the Big Ten. He was signed to a free agent contract. They now signed him to that future contract. We mentioned Dalen Ball from Jackson State to Michigan. Story Jackson from Prairie View A&M and linebacker that spent his final year at Liberty. So we got 3 of those. And then the 4th one was Tyrone Wheatley Jr. His father was the coach at Morgan State before he became an NFL assistant running backs coach in the league. And his son, as a defensive tackle, I think it is, or is it an offensive tackle? He's an offensive tackle. So he also out of Morgan State. So 4 players, 3 of whom left the HBCU ranks to spend that grad year in the FBS ranks. The Browns are basically saying, we want you. We see a role for you going forward, even though they didn't get on the field this year. So that's a good thing to get a contract underhand. They can spend the summer enjoying and knowing that they got a slot coming up when they come back to practice over the summer.
So we've talked about some guys in the league right now. Let's talk about a former player, a former All-Pro player that you got to talk to yesterday. Now, last week on the HBCU NFL Report, this was just a rumor. And like I told you guys, everything starts as a rumor. Everything starts as a rumor. Now it's a certified fact that Vincent Brown is the new head coach at North Carolina A&T University, former NFL All-Pro. Luke, you were at the press conference yesterday. What was the vibe? What info and knowledge did you get from Vincent Brown?
Well, had good conversations with him during the press conference. After the press conference, Steve and I did a one-on-one. Steve Gaither and I did a one-on-one with him after the press conference. Very impressive, very articulate. The man has impeccable credentials. He's won an FCS championship when he was on the staff of Mike London at the University of Richmond. And that led to University of Richmond hiring Mike London as their head coach at the University of Virginia in the ACC. He was on Mike London's staff as Mike London was the coach of the year in the ACC during, I think, his 4 years it was at Virginia. So he went with him from Richmond to Virginia. After they let Mike London go at Virginia, he went to Maryland for a minute. Then he went to Howard as the head coach. He came to the HBCU ranks, and there again, the undertaker Vincent Brown decided to join him at Howard. And then when he left Howard and went to William and Mary, They went to William & Mary with him as defensive coordinator, associate head coach. He ran the defense for an 11-2 William & Mary team this year, one of 5 teams out of the CAA that made the FCS playoffs, and they made it to the quarterfinal round. So A&T, one of the questions I asked, a tough question, like, Sam Washington was a winner. He won 2 Celebration Bowls, on the brink of winning the Big South Championship this year, would have earned an FCS playoff bid if he had done that. How difficult would it have been to let Sam Washington go if he had advanced, for example, in the FCS playoffs, if they had beaten Gardner-Webb in that last game? But they said it was a question of alignment. The A&T is moving forward. North Carolina A&T is moving forward. They want to be elite. They want to be elite on the FCS level. They want to be elite on the basketball level. And this is a move forward, they're thinking, in terms of alignment. They want to make sure that their coaches align with their vision. And you had a good talk with Vincent Brown. One of the questions I asked him had to get the name The Undertaker. And they said when he was at Mississippi Valley State, when he tackled people, he would bury them. And a local newspaper reporter came up with the nickname The Undertaker, which followed him throughout his playing career. But very impressive, I thought. He, like Sam Washington, is a product of Mississippi Valley State. So that means A&T is having a repeat Mississippi Valley State alum as their head coach. But he was, I thought, very articulate, very clearly stated what his goals were, what he was going to bring to the team, what he was going to bring to the program on the field, in the community, in the classroom. So he said all of the right things. Had a packed house to welcome him to A&T. So this transition, A&T will be playing in the CAA next year for the first year. This is a guy who has CAA experience, winning in the CAA, in the toughest FCS conference in the country. So overall, Symone, I say it was a great introduction for Vincent Brown. And now, he's got to get to work because they've lost some key players. Bashal Tootin transferred to Boston College. Their leading tackler transferred to East Carolina. So this pattern of doing well at the HBCU ranks and then moving up in terms of these players is going to be a real challenge as he tries to build a winning program and establish a new kind of winning for the A&T and the CAA. So we're going to keep our eyes on that for sure.
So do you think that was the main reason they were looking for a new coach, and Vincent in specific? Because I think the biggest question from the Aggies is, why they were looking for a new head coach. Do you think it's because they're moving to a new conference? They want a coach who has experience in that conference?
Yeah, I think it's that, but the way that athletics director Earl Hilton said it, he said it's an alignment. In other words, they wanted someone that aligns with all of their objectives. Jumping from the MEAC to the Big South to the CAA in a matter of less than 3 years can be challenging for anyone, especially in every sport that you're dealing with, And I think there was some degree of thinking that maybe he wanted to go forward with somebody who was fully on board with the direction that they're going. And the way he said it, they had 70 candidates. They narrowed it down to 20. They then narrowed it down to 6, and they narrowed it down to 2, and they chose Vincent Brown over Sean Gibbs, who is the head coach at Fort Valley State, who had been a running backs coach for the Aggies under both Rod Broadway and Sam Washington. So those were the 2 finalists for the job. And it's pretty clear. Vincent Brown, probably his resume is a little more accomplished than Sean Gibbs. Sean Gibbs had a great first year down at Fort Valley State. But Vincent Brown, with all of his experience, FCS championship experience, FBS experience, HBCU experience, he checked all the boxes.
So do you think that we are going to see Sam coaching again, or do you think he might just retire, spend some time with the fam?
Yeah, and Coach Washington, beloved Coach Washington, had a great relationship with him. Talked to him the night that the story broke. I've been trying to get him to talk on camera since then to talk about what he's going to do and how he feels about it. But when I did talk to him the night that it broke, very upbeat. He was like, "Hey, Lute, how you doing?" I was like, I was expecting maybe, he was sad. So I think that Sam has had a great 30-year career as a coach. And believe me, there'll be no shortage of folks who want a Sam Washington to work with him, So I think it's up to him, but he is nearing that retirement age. He's had a great career, just like Vincent Brown in the NFL, winning everywhere he's been as a coach. So we'll have to wait and see, and hopefully we can get him on HBCU game day to talk about it.
So that viral, now give me my money. That's gonna live forever, because I saw that. I don't know what game it was for. Oh, it was one NFL player. He had got a bonus. You know how the end of the year bonus, like if you get your sack count or whatever, and I saw they had used that Sam Washington, now give me my money or bring me my money. That's gonna live on forever.
Yeah, that's very iconic for Sam. Bring me my money. That game had so much intrigue about it. There was so much surrounding that payoff that they were supposed to make for that game. That was a money game against East Carolina. They went out and kicked East Carolina's butt, and that locker room was certainly iconic. Absolutely.
So he left us with some gems. But
yeah,
Lou,
we wish him the best though. Great guy, Sam Washington.
Yes. Lou, we got to talk about our players of the week, week 18, but it was also a few moments I want to ask you about from week 18, or it might have been week 17, but we didn't get to talk about this. You brought up The Undertaker and Vincent Brown tackling guys hard, putting them in the dirt. What did you think about Thibodeaux, outside linebacker, New York Giants, doing snow angels after sacking my man, Nick Foles? See, I thought it was Matt Ryan down there, and I was good. Yeah. Then I was like, wait, that's Nick Foles. Treat him with some respect. But it's been a lot of debate about that. What was your thoughts?
Well, I heard what Thibodeaux said. Thibodeaux said that he did not realize he was hurt. And listen, these defensive players, they actually celebrate more than the offensive players now. You got to run all the way from wherever you get the pick or wherever you get the sack or the turnover. You run all the way to the other end of the field to jump in front of the cameras and preen for the cameras. So Thibodeaux said he didn't know the guy was hurt. He had hit him hard or whatever, but he didn't know that he was hurt. So I can excuse him for that, and that celebration stuff, I could take it or leave it. Certainly, I think he apologized for it. He didn't mean. I don't think that there's some people in the league who would celebrate hurting somebody, but I don't think Thibodeaux is one of them. I could think of a couple of Vontaze Burfict who did that.
Oh, you name dropping.
He knocked out a couple of Steelers, and he was celebrating that kind of stuff. He kind of cold-cocked Antonio Brown one time, and then he ended Le'Veon Bell's season. He had become a nemesis, but everybody knew he was a dirty player. I don't think that's the case with Thibodeaux. He just happened to be, not knowing that the guy behind him was suffering while he was celebrating. So
yeah, I agree with that. And everybody, I don't get why they made that a big deal. Everybody has a sack celebration that they do after a sack. Like even Fletcher Cox, he's got his army crawl. Javon Hargrave kicking that thigh up. Even though I'm so nervous when Javon kicks that thigh up, because
TJ Watt's got one.
Pulling something on a celebration.
Yeah, our TJ Watt's got one like that too. Yeah, he throws his foot up.
But TJ Watt is a little bit more lean than Javon.
Right. Absolutely.
I'm like, put that leg down. But yeah, everybody has a sack celebration. I don't know why they were picking on Thibodeaux. And he made a good point. It's a violent sport. Our goal is to knock somebody in the dirt, and then they pick and choose when something's okay. The next biggest moment, man, the Lions, the Detroit Lions, man. They were so close to making the playoffs. All they needed was a Seahawks loss, and the Seahawks game came down to a wire in a win over the Packers. They did their job beating the Packers, man. It would have been so fun seeing this Lions team, everything that has been going on with the Lions this season, our guy from Jackson State making the playoffs, but they just...
Well, they had the same scenario as we did. They needed help. But they did the same thing we did. They got to win, and I say we, the Steelers, they got to win in their final game, which kind of validates the fact, just like we're talking about with the Steelers, that the Lions are a team on the rise. Nobody expected them to be anywhere near the playoffs. We thought they'd be 4-15 or 4-14 or something, this season. But they really played well. And if you really follow them, they were the team that they followed on Hard Knocks this year, in-season Hard Knocks, as Dan Campbell kind of became, if you were watching it, kind of came familiar with his coaching style and what he has done. And obviously, from our standpoint, James Houston may have been the story of the year in the HBCU ranks, man, to set a NFL record, 8 sacks in the first 6 games in the league. And almost had a sack actually on his finale.
He was itching to get Aaron Rodgers.
Well, he got him, but they didn't give him a sack. They gave him a 1-yard loss because they said he was running. He wasn't like a quarterback sack. But that was the only tackle he had this past week. But it was close to being a sack, and it probably would have just extended his NFL record for sacks in the first 6 or 7 games of his career.
Because it was like a 4th and 7. And James Houston jumped, and Chris Collinsworth was on the broadcast saying, he was, licking his chops trying to get at Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. If you listen to the broadcast, they talked about, how impressive he's been in these last 6 or 7 games. Certainly good news for the kid because, he languished on the practice squad for 11 games, as we talked about before. So, again, and we'll talk about this. This was I think a banner year for the HBCU players in the league, and I think we'll talk about that a little later because there were accomplishments all around. First for some guys, even for Javon Hargraves, first time in double-digit sacks. Some guys got their first interceptions. There are rookies who got interceptions. Joshua Williams got an interception. Decobie Durant got 3. So it was a lot of very, very positive things for HBCU players, particularly a year after nobody was drafted. And, what's the deal? How come they really stepped up this year to show that HBCU players are worthy of being taken in the draft and can play at the next level.
So let's get into our Week 18 Players of the Week. Offensive Player of the Week, who you got?
I got Nick Leverett. He's still become a mainstay on the Bucs offensive line. This week, the Bucs, limped into the playoffs as they lost to Atlanta. But no, I didn't get Leverett this week. Let me correct myself. No, Leverett did limp into the playoffs. I gave it to Titus Howard this week, the offensive guard out of Alabama State, former first-round pick, because the Titans, I'm sorry, not the Titans, the Houston Texans finished strong. They got a 32-31 win over Indianapolis. They took Dallas to the wire. They took Kansas City to the wire. But still, as you know, they let go of Lovie Smith. I thought that was a stupid move.
I thought that was crazy.
Yeah, they were playing the best football they've played since
they
Deshaun
took
Watson.
Us to the wire. What you mean?
That's what I mean. They took you. They took Dallas and they took Kansas City. And it's like, okay, black man, go on about your business. Thank you for holding this up for a minute. Let's go out and find us the next coach that we can find. So anyway, so I thought Lovie Smith deserved to stay there. Just like I think Coach Steve Wilkes deserves to stay in Carolina. We're going to see how that plays out, So the word is that Raheem Morris may be the guy that they will elevate if McVay decides to leave the LA Rams.
You mean they decide to fire McVay?
Well, they said McVay's going to take a leave of absence. He's going to be able to take a year off.
He's taking a leave of absence so he won't have fire on his headline.
Well, he lost a grandfather, and I think he's got some issue with some family that they're talking about. I mean, it's kind of unheard of. You win the Super Bowl one year, the next year you flame out. But now you're talking about giving him a year off or something to that effect. But we're gonna keep our eye to see what happens with Steve Wilkes. We'll see what happened with Lovie Smith. Ungrateful for what he had gotten them to do with that roster that's not top heavy with stars. Steve Wilkes did a great job, I thought, with Carolina. See if they keep him, because we will keep up with how many African American coaches there are in the NFL. So.
Yes, Steve Wilkes needs that Panthers job. If he doesn't get that job with the Panthers, it's a crying shame. And they ended the season with a win over the Saints. Needed that for that draft pick. And then also Lovie Smith, they had nobody there. And then their wide receiver, Brandon Cooks, who their top wide receiver, he sat out so many games. So I don't even know what they expected from the Texans, and a change of coach is not the solution. Lovie had them in so many games, but
he did. So we'll have to keep our eye. We're talking about, I think they're talking about Brian Flores might be up for one of the.
I hope Brian Flores don't take that job, because the Texans, they have so much toxicity. They have so much toxic stuff going on. And J.J. Watt said it after he left. J.J. Watt was saying how toxic the front office and the organization is. The D-Hop said it when he left. He said how toxic the organization and the front office was. And I can't remember his name, but over like the last 15 years, their star wide receiver, I can't remember his name. He was like their main dude before D-Hop. But he was saying it was J.J. Watt, D-Hop, and I can't remember his name, but he was saying how he was the main dude in the Texans. He was saying how dirty the Texas organization was. So I hope no brothers go to the Texans until they figure that out.
Yeah, not a good spot for Brian Flores. It's like that's where you go when a coach is waiting to be fired. You know, it's an invitation to be fired. So anyway, but Titus Howard is a first-round pick out of Alabama State, has played well all season. He's actually shifted. Some games he started at guard, some games he started at tackle. Very agile on his feet for a big 300-pounder. So he was our offensive player of the week this week, because the Texans beat They beat Indianapolis. They passed for 300 yards and 3 TDs and only 1 sack. So he gets the Offensive Player of the Year award, Player of the Week award this week.
Defense.
On the defense, I'm glad to say that Joe Thomas out of Chicago was the Defensive Player of the Week, but we had a co-Defensive Player of the Week. The other was Danny Johnson, the defensive back out of Southern.
Shout out to the Commanders, though.
For the Washington Commanders. Yeah, and you know who they beat and almost embarrassed to end that season. Yeah, they beat the Cowboys. And Johnson had 7 tackles in the game for the Commanders. He had 7 tackles. He had a couple of pass breakups. 3 of those 7 tackles were solos. So Danny Johnson shares the defensive award with Joe Thomas. And the big thing about Joe Thomas is that beginning of the season, Roquan Smith, the linebacker for Chicago, held out. He was really talking about, you know, he wanted more money. Before the season was over, they traded him. And once they traded him, Joe Thomas stepped up. He had double-digit sacks in 2 of those games. And you start talking about underappreciated. Joe Thomas was a 2-time MEAC Defensive Player of the Year. He was another beast out of South Carolina State. He was the beast, before Javon Hargrave, before Decobie Durant. And Buddy Pugh would tell you Joe Thomas was as good a football player as he's had at South Carolina State. So he had 14 tackles this week, 10 of them solos. I think, you know, he was kind of making an exclamation point to let the Bears know that you can rely on me. I can play this position, you know, and I can be a starter at this position, not just a special teamer, where he was playing behind Roquan Smith, who was a high draft choice from a big program. You know, this is one of the things HBCU players always face. You're going up against a guy from Alabama or from Georgia or somewhere like that. No matter what you do, you're always going to be behind them. So Joe Thomas, I think, showed that, and that's why he's our player of the week this week. And he's one of those players, as we said before, an HBCU player who actually made steps forward this year. Not only the rookies, but also the veterans that are in the league.
It was Andre Johnson. That's what I was talking about.
I remember. I thought I couldn't get it either, but Andre Johnson, he was an absolute beast.
And he caused no problems. And he was saying how toxic that they did him, and they continue to do him. They put no respect on him. Yeah. But shout out to Joe Thomas. We're going to reflect on all these players, all their accomplishments in a future HBCU NFL report. Now, let me take a guess. Who could the special teams player of the week be? I think in our game, the score was 0 points for the Giants at half. So if they had 0 points, that means it was a whole lot of punting going on.
And you said that last week. You said you hope he would be the player of the week this week, because that would mean they would be punting a lot. And they did punt 6 times. He had a good average. He punted for over 44 yards a punt. I guess it helped keep them close. He pinned them deep. He didn't have any touchbacks. He had a 39-yard net punting average for the game, and he's been our perennial special teams player of the week, because a lot of the special teams guys that have played before, like Trenton Cannon, Danny Johnson, who we mentioned, used to run back kicks for the Commanders this year. He didn't do any of that at all. So Jamie Gillan is again our special teams player of the week. And we talked about, and we try to decide whether we're going to actually pick some players of the year out of the HBCU ranks. Maybe that's something we'll try to do.
Well, we know who's going to win the special teams player of the year. That ain't going to be no surprise.
Right.
Well, I'm riding on that Jamie Gillan. Well, no. I don't want Jamie Gillan punting next week, because I'm actually rooting for the Giants against the Vikings in Wild Card Weekend. So the less he punts, that means there's some more scoring going on from Daniel Jones and Saquon and them guys. So, hopefully. And remind me, the Eagles play, because they're the top seed, they'll play the lowest seed that wins. Yes.
Out of the wild card games in the NFC, whoever is the lowest seeded team, that's who they'll win, by virtue of them being the top seed.
Yes. So
okay.
It's either going to be the Bucks, the Cowboys, the Giants, or the Seahawks. One of those 4 teams. So Wild Card Weekend coming up. We'll see what happens.
Absolutely.
And you got your Ravens. The Ravens are playing. Are they playing the Bengals?
Yeah, I think they are playing the Bengals. Yeah.
So who you got your divisional matchup?
Yeah. Who cares? I don't know. They get Lamar Jackson. If they get Lamar Jackson back, I think it'll be a good game. Without Lamar Jackson, if they playing one of their backups, if Cincinnati beat them this week, beat them easily, and if Lamar Jackson, and I think from all that I've read, he's probably not going to play, I would think that it'll be an easy win for Cincinnati.
All right. To Wild Card Weekend, we're going to be looking out for a few of our HBCU standouts that will be competing on Saturday and Sunday. So keep it tapped in here, HBCU Game Day. I am Symone Stanley. He is Lute Williams. We are keeping you guys updated on your favorite Black college football stars in the pros. Thank you guys so much for watching.